Matt Walker rides for Madison Saracen factory team and was the 2020 Men's Downhill World Cup champion. At 22 years old, he showed that the consistency needed to win an overall title, especially in such a short race season, isn't reserved for the older, wiser riders. Matt may be young, but he's a seasoned racer and battled another young protege, Canadian racer Finn Isles, in their junior race years. Both moved up to the senior elite ranks with all eyes on them, but where Finn has shown brilliant speed and talent, there have also been mistakes also common with young, hot-headed racers. So how has Matt bucked that trend? Thanks to Shimano, we're going to visit Matt and find out what does it take to be the fastest downhill racer in the world. And I'm driving up to meet Matt in a stomping ground that I know well. We're driving up to the same hills and trails that I grew up riding to meet Matt. But first, before we get there, we're actually going to Alton Park, a motor racing circuit, to catch up with Matt doing something else that he loves doing.
Yeah, we're here today on Park, track day. Now I'm old enough and stupid enough, I've decided to buy a bike myself. And yeah, me and Dad have, Dad's bought a bike again for the first time in 10 years, and quite a surreal thing to be able to like go 120, 30 mile an hour and follow your dad around. It's a pretty cool situation. He's squeezed into his old leathers, and yeah, we're back on the track days. It's mega. So in November I bought a CBR 1000 RR, probably best part of 200 horsepower, and somewhere like here it just wants to wheelie all the time, which is it's pretty cool, but yeah, it takes some riding for sure and takes some learning. Why do I like going fast on motorbikes? Not sure really. I think it's a lot to do with my dad, to be honest. He raced motorbikes for 10 years, and growing up I kind of spent a lot of time in like at racetracks and in paddocks with him. So your first kind of hero is your dad, so I just wanted to be like him when I grow up. So I first wanted to race motorbikes, and that's what as a child, that was my dream, to kind of go and race motorbikes. I think if I wanted to justify it as like training for mountain bikes, I probably could, but to be honest, I just see it as like a bit of an escape from mountain biking, to be honest. I think the job we have is quite high pressure at times, and the training is pretty relentless through the winter and stuff, and it's not really a job you can kind of leave at the door. Like, it's not really 9 to 5, it's kind of a lifestyle thing, and I think motorbikes for me is really important.
Do you think there's any similarities? I know with racing downhill, there's a process of getting your body ready to do it, and the mental side and the skill side, but then there's the bike where you look at every component on the bike to try and make it as fast as possible. From the outside looking in, I guess that must be quite similar on a motorbike.
I guess it's pretty similar, yeah, and it's just like the speed and everything. Like sometimes when you go, I notice it on a mountain bike when I'm used to riding in the UK and the tracks are generally a bit slower, quite tight, technical tracks. And then when you go abroad, the tracks are quite a lot faster, and it just takes a day or two for your brain to get used to actually going that fast. Whereas with the motorbike, you leave pit lane and you're doing over 100 mile an hour within a few seconds. So your brain has to adapt to that so quickly. And I think that you can kind of compare with mountain biking.
Matt was the junior world champion in 2017, and the junior rainbow stripes come with an expectancy to fly in the elite ranks. 2019 started with a bang, 5th place and Matt's first senior podium, but there was also a 22nd, a 33rd and a 56th. But the world kept turning and 2020 reared its head. But when the racing did start, Matt came alive. 4th at round 1 in Maribor, 3rd just a couple of days later at the double header. Moving on to Lusa in Portugal for another 2 rounds back to back, and that was the season. It was so short and no way for riders to make up for mistakes. Pressure was really on for the top riders. Vergier punctures, Matt goes 2nd and then backs it up with 3rd. The title is his. The fact that he won the overall without actually winning a race has been made more than a few times, but the results speak for themselves. Matt is from my neck of the woods. Loads of successful racers have come from around here or have moved here to call it home. When I was young, there was a very strong local scene of downhill racers, and since then there have been people like Mark Beaumont, a World Cup winner and a GMBN presenter, the Athertons, Matt Simmons. I know from experience how hard it is to be at the front end of World Cup downhill racing. The hard work that goes into training, racecraft from years of honing your skills to beat the clock, bike setup, mental fortitude. But there is a balance you have to get right. You need to be fit enough, strong enough, fast enough, skillful enough, clever enough, and many other things enough to be a really fast downhill racer. But the fastest have all of those things in the right amounts without sacrificing too much of one for not enough of the other.
Looking back to last year, how did it feel winning the World Cup overall?
Yeah, it was amazing, mate, to be honest. I think it was just one of them things. I really didn't expect it to happen. I really wanted to be at the front. I kind of prepared myself to be in the top 10 as much as possible, and I kind of made goals for myself to aim for a couple of, if I could get on the podium 2 times that season, I'd be over the moon with that. So then to come away from the year and have podiumed every race and not been outside the top 5 the whole season and eventually winning the overall, it was I far surpassed all my expectations of myself, really. So it did come as a bit of a shock, but it happened so quickly. The races were so packed in, week in, week out for a month and a half. So I tried to absorb it as much as possible and try and enjoy the moment, because I was enjoying my racing as much as I ever had. I was really enjoying just riding my bike every week, and to be honest, it was coming easy. The bike just kind of felt like an extension of my body. It was just riding when it feels like that is just the best feeling ever. So I was just trying to treasure that as much as possible in the short period that we were racing,
And to win the overall it's a really difficult thing to do. You've got to be the best rider every race weekend. But I mean, some people I think have made more of it than I think they maybe should, but you haven't won a round yet. So I guess that's a goal for this year.
Yeah, definitely. That is quite a clear goal, really, for me now, is the next step. But I think, in a way, it was a blessing I didn't win one. Because I think in that short space of time, if everything had come so quickly, maybe I wouldn't be so hungry now. I kind of would have ticked a lot of boxes off in one small space of time. I'm in the position where I truly believe I can, and it's the first time I felt like this since I've started racing World Cups, really. So that is really exciting. So just trying to line things up and hopefully get it done sooner rather than later.
But when it comes to setting up your downhill bike for a race season, you must go into a lot of detail with testing. How do you know when it's right? Do you test the bike against the clock as well as feel?
A lot of the time it will just be off feel, but I think, like you say, it is really important to test it against the clock. So things with wheel sizes, obviously we'll test that against the clock, big changes like that. I think it's really important just to be comfortable on the bike. I think that's the first thing that that's what I always look for, is to be comfortable on the bike, because if you've not changed the click and you've gone 5 seconds faster, then it shows to me that the bike doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. It just needs to be in a ballpark where you're comfortable with it and you'll be able to deliver.
And I guess with wheel size, there's been, the last few years people have chopped and changed a lot, and you've landed on mixed wheel size. Is that because you feel comfortable on that?
Naturally, it was the way the industry was going anyway, so I thought it was really important to try it, just based off of feeling, really. It just feels a little bit more comfortable for me. I think I'm right on the limit in terms of my height, where I could get away with a 29er, and just for me it just felt a little bit more comfortable, and I felt like I could ride the bike a little bit more aggressively.
Talk us through, how you get to the end of a downhill run as fast as you can with your bike in one piece.
Thursday, Friday, when you walk the track, you've got to find really nice lines and smooth lines. In the past, when components weren't as good, you'd maybe think about it more, but yeah, like in a downhill race, it is really, really important to look after your equipment. Obviously you can be as fast as you want, but if you don't make it down the hill, you can win and lose titles on punches and mechanicals. So it is a huge part of the game, and looking after your bike is really, really important.
So I kind of followed, I guess, the same career path, or similar, should I say. Grew up, racing these hills, racing the Pierce, the Nationals, going on to race World Cups, but I never got to that, onto the podium, winning World Cup overalls. How do you make that leap?
I think the biggest thing for me was being picked up at such a young age by such a professional team. When I was 13 or 14 years old, I joined the Madison Saracen development team and kind of was taken under Will Longdon's wing from a young age, and he kind of taught me the ropes. And I was on the team at the time, and we had riders like Mark Beaumont, Matt Simmons, Manon Carpenter was also on the team, and they're high-level racers and racers with a lot of experience as well, and they taught me so much in my younger years, and I think that was really, really important for me to kind of learn the ropes and learn the craft. And yeah, I've just been supported by great people, and I'm in a great support network, and yeah, I think that's definitely the key for my success over the last few years.
I had the same team manager, basically.
Maybe he's just got better.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe Will's a better team manager. Maybe I taught him the ropes, and you got the wins because of it.